Welcome, everyone. Great to have you here for today's session. This talk is part of the 60 Days of Data and AI powered by Communities series, which kicked off on June 15th. If you haven't already scanned the QR code that you may see on the screen, and or head to aka.ms/datadays to see the full calendar. There are sessions running throughout the program covering the whole data and AI stack. And today's is just one stop on that journey. Let me share my screen once again. Okay. I think there's a problem with my... Okay, now everything is okay. So, quick introduction before we dive in. My name is Ilgar Zarbaliyev, and I'm a Microsoft Data Platform and Microsoft 365 MVP. I work day to day with Power BI and the broader Microsoft Data Platform, and I'm also active in the community through user groups and events like this one. If you would like to connect or have follow-up questions after the session, my LinkedIn is on screen. Yeah, on screen, and feel free to reach out. So, what are we actually here to talk about today? Two things, really. How to visualize and analyze your data effectively using Power BI, and that knowledge maps directly onto the PL-300 certification, the Power BI Data Analyst exam. This is the third session in our series, and today we are going to deep on the reporting and analysis side of Power BI, which, as you see, is also one of the biggest chunks of the actual exam. Here is the roadmap for our time together. We'll start with a quick overview of the PL-300 exam and Power BI itself, just to set context for everyone near to this. Then we'll get into the meat of it, designing Power BI reports and enhancing those reports for a better user experience. From there, we'll talk about identifying patterns and trends in your data, which is where a lot of the analyst part of Power BI data analyst really comes in. And we'll close out with some practical, no-nonsense tips for passing the exam itself, plus a short demo along the way. Regarding demo, it's not going to be related to the third part of PL-300 exam, but actually it's going to be related to role level security that is related to the fourth part of the PL-300 exam. But in the fourth session, I'm going to demo that is going to be related to today's session, so-called building dashboard and data alerts. Lots to cover, so let's get moving. Let's start with the exam itself. What PL-300 actually is, who it's for, and how it's structured. If you have never looked at the exam outline before, this next part is just for you. Before we zoom into PL-300 specifically, it's worth seeing where it sits in the bigger picture. Microsoft's data and analytics certifications are role-based, and there are three that sit closely together under the Fabric umbrella. PL-300, Power BI Data Analyst, is the one we are focused on today. It's about turning data into insight through reports and visuals. DP600 is the Fabric Analytics Engineer path, which goes deeper into building semantic models and the engineering side of the analytics within Fabric. And DP700 is Fabric Data Engineer, focused on the data pipelines and engineering work that feeds everything upstream. If you want to see how these certifications connect and plan out a longer term learning path, check out aka.ms/Fabric Career Hub. It lays out the whole career journey. Now, let's look at what this certification actually expects of you. PL-300 is rated as an intermediate level exam. And the core idea is this. You should be able to deliver actionable insights by working data and applying real domain expertise, not just technical skill in a vacuum. Concretely, that means two things. First, providing real business value through visualizations that are genuinely easy to understand, not just technically correct, but actually useful to the people looking at them. Second, enabling self-service analytics so other people in the business can explore the data themselves rather than depending on you for every question. As a Power BI data analyst, you are typically working closely with business stakeholders to figure out what they actually need and collaborating with data and analytics engineers to get and shape the right data. Across the exam, you will be tested on 4 core skill areas: preparing data, modeling data, visualizing and analyzing it, and managing and securing Power BI assets. And underneath all of that, you're expected to be comfortable with Power Query and DAX, data analysis expressions, since those are the tools that do the heavy lifting. If you want to full official skills outline, it's at aka.ms/PL300 exam. Here is the exam broken down by weight. So you know where to focus your study time. Preparing data is 25 to 30% of the exam. Modeling data is also 25 to 30%. Visualizing and analyzing data, our main focus today is again 25 to 30%. And managing and securing Power BI rounds it out at 15 to 20%. Note that the 4 areas are roughly equal in weight. So there is no shortcut here. You really do need solid coverage across data prep, modeling, and visualization. The full study guide is at aka.ms/PL300 study guide if you want to map your prep against this. By the way, I will write at the end of this session all these links on YouTube chat box. Let's go one level deeper into each of those 4 areas because the subskills matter just as much as the headline percentages. Under preparing data, 25 to 30%, you've got getting data from various sources, profiling and cleaning it, and then transforming and loading it. Under modeling data, also 25 to 30%, you are designing and implementing the data model itself, creating calculations with DAX and optimizing model performance so reports stay fast. Visualizing and analyzing data, our focus for today, again 25 to 30%, covers creating reports, enhancing them for usability and storytelling, and identifying patterns and trends. That last one maps directly onto a section we'll cover later in this session. Actually, yeah, the practical part in the next session will be. And finally, managing and securing Power BI at 15 to 20%, that covers creating and managing workspaces and assets. Plus, securing and governing Power BI items like role-level security, which we'll actually touch on near the end today. So once again, you can find all the full breakdown that lies at the aka, the slash PL-300 study guide. So it's worth bookmarking. Sorry. Now that we know what the exam expects, let's ground ourselves in Power BI itself, where it sits in the Microsoft data ecosystem and how the pieces fit together. Power BI doesn't live on an island. It's on workload. It's one workload inside Microsoft Fabric, which is Microsoft's unified platform for data and analytics. Across the top, you've got the different workloads. Data Factory for data integration, data engineering, data warehouse, data science, real-time analytics, and Power BI itself for visualization and reporting. Underneath all of those sits one lake, a single, unified data lake that every workload reads from and writes to. That's really the key idea of Fabric. Instead of separate storage for every tool, everything shares the same data foundation. And tying it all together, Fabric gives you one SaaS, product experience, consistent security and governance, shared compute and storage, and a unified business model, rather than juggling separate licenses and admin experiences for each piece. For the PL-300 exam, you don't need to be a Fabric expert, but understanding that Power BI is part of this bigger picture helps a lot of the exam's context make sense. Zooming into Power BI specifically, here is the basic flow of how data moves through the tool. It starts with data sources, databases, files, cloud services, APIs, whatever you are pulling from. That data flows into Power BI Desktop, which is where you do the real work, connecting to data, transforming it with Power Query, building your data model, writing docs, and designing your report visuals. Once your report is built, you publish it to the Power BI service, the cloud side, where it can be shared, refreshed on a schedule, and accessed by your team. So, and from there, it's also um, available on Power BI Mobile. So people can check dashboards and reports from their phone or tablet. Keep this flow in mind as we move forward, because the rest of today's session is really about what happens in that desktop authoring step, building and publishing the report itself. Let's get into report creation. This is where a lot of the exams visualize and analyze content lives. And it's also just genuinely useful skill regardless of the exam. First principle of good report design. So choose the right visual for the job. A line chart tells a different story than a bar chart, which tells a different story than a table. And picking the wrong one can actually obscure the insight you are trying to surface. Second, format for clarity. That means clear titles that tell people what they are looking at, readable labels, and colors that are intentional rather than just whatever the default theme gave you. The third is avoiding clutter. It's tempting to cram every field and every visual onto one page, but a clutter report is a report nobody can actually read. Less is almost always more here. Okay, so here is a concrete example of what that looks like in practice. On the left, you can see a dense table of raw sales data, lots of numbers, hard to scan just, quickly. On the right side, the same data has been formatted with conditional formatting and color just hues, data bars, color scales, highlighted values, icons. So your eye is immediately drawn to the high and low points without you having to read every cell. And this is the difference between a report that just displays data and one that actually communicates with the viewer. Building on that, let's talk about themes and conditional formatting specifically. Since these are two of the most efficient tools for improving a report's look and clarity. Applying a consistent theme across your report, colors, fonts, spacing, does two things. It reinforces your organization's branding and it makes the whole report feel cohesive rather than like a patchwork of default visuals. Conditional formatting is your tool for highlighting what matters, flagging values above or below a threshold, color coding performance, drawing attention to outliers. So the key word here is intentional. Use conditional formatting and color to guide attention toward the things that matter, not just to decorate the page. If everything is highlighted, nothing is. Now let's talk about how users actually interact with and explore your report once it's built. Slicers and filters are your main tools for enabling that self-service exploration we talked about earlier, letting users narrow down the data to what's relevant to them without you having to build a separate report for every scenario. Just a minute, sorry. Okay. I'm sorry, there was a background voice, so sorry for this. Let me share my screen once again, and let me, yeah, I hope we are on the same correct slide. So it's worth understanding filter scope because this comes up on the exam. A filter can apply at the visual level and affecting just one chart at the page level, affecting everything on that page, or at the report level, affecting every page in the report. So knowing which scope to use and when is a core skill, right? On this slide, you can also see the comparison between slicer and the filter pane. So let me go back. So here we can see slicer versus filter pane, right? So both slicer and filter pane, they filter data, but a slicer is invisible on canvas control your end users can interact with, while the filter pane is more of an authoring time tool, although it can also be exposed to viewers. And don't overlook page configuration. You can change canvas size, adjust the background, and set wallpaper, all of which affect how your report looks and feels across different devices and screen sizes. Two more tools worth knowing for the exam and for real world report building. Visual calculations let you write sample tags that operates directly at the visual level. So instead of adding a new measure to your whole model, you can compute something just for the context of one specific chart or table. It's a lighter weight way to get quick calculated values without cluttering your model. Paginated reports are a different beast entirely. They are built for pixel perfect, printable output. Think invoices, statements, or any document where exact layout and pagination matter. If someone needs to print a report and have it look exactly the same every time, paginated reports are the tool for that job, not a standard Power BI report. Now that we have covered the basic of building a report, let's talk about taking it further, making it more usable, and turning it into something that actually tells a story rather than just displaying numbers. Three features that take a report from functional to genuinely guided and polished. Bookmarks lets you capture a specific state of your report. Certain filters applied, a certain visual selected, and then let users jump between those states. This is how you build guided, story-driven experiences inside a single report page, almost like a presentation within the report itself. Custom tooltips add context exactly where someone needs it. Hover over a data point and get extra detail or even a whole mini visual without cluttering the main canvas. And visual interactions control how clicking on one visual affects the others on the page. You can see in the example how clicking a date slicer just changes, you know, um, how it interacts with a table. Getting this right means your report behaves the way users just expect, rather than confusing them with unrelated visuals reacting unpredictably. Now about navigation and sorting. Navigation and sorting might sound basic, but they are often the difference between a report people actually use and one they give up on. Good navigation, that buttons, bookmarks, paste menus, clear page structure helps user find their way around a multi-page report without getting lost. And sorting matters more than people expect. The order data appears in changes how it's interpreted. A chart sorted by value tells a different story than one sorted alphabetically, even with identical data. In the example on the screen, you can see a clean dashboard layout where navigation and sensible sort order work together to make the whole thing feel intuitive. Accessibility isn't a nice to have, it's part of designing reports well. And it's explicitly part of the PL-300 exam content too. That means thinking about alt text on your visuals so screen readers can describe what's on the page, a sensible tab order so keyboard users can navigate logically, and sufficient color contrast so people with visual impairments can actually distinguish your data. It also means using a mobile layout view to design a responsive experience. The example on screen shows the same report adapted for a phone screen with visuals stacked and resized for the smaller viewport. A report that only works on a widescreen monitor is a report that's excluding part of your audience. Let's move into the analytical side of things, not just displaying data, but actively identifying patterns, trends, and anomalies within it. This is where Power BI starts to feel less like a reporting tool and more like an analysis tool. So, exploratory analysis is about discovering things in your data you didn't already know to look for, like trends, outliers, relationships between fields. Power BI has built-in tools to support these directly. The Analyze feature lets you right-click a data point and ask Power BI to explain why it's higher or lower than expected. Grouping just lets you combine related categories together for cleaner analysis. And binning lets you take continuous numeric data and group it into ranges, age brackets, price tiers, that kind of thing, to support patterns more easily. You can see in the example on screen how they analyze menu surfaces options like finding where a distribution is different. Right from a simple right click, no DAX required to get started. This is now a little bit about AI visuals and forecasting. This is one of my actually favorite areas because it's where Power BI really starts doing some of the analytical heavy lifting for you. AI visuals can uncover insights automatically. You point them at your data, and they surface things you might not have thought to look for. Forecasting and reference lines let you visualize trends to forward in time, projecting where the data is headed based on historical patterns directly on a line chart. And for deeper analysis, smart narrative automatically generates a written, plain language summary of what's happening in your visual. The decomposition tree lets you drill into a metric and break it down across multiple dimensions interactively. And key influencers visuals analyze what factors are actually driving a particular outcome. Genuinely powerful stuff for explaining the why behind your numbers, not just the what. Let's look at a concrete example of anomaly detection in action. So the chart you show on the screen shows average eyes coverage per year, along with a 10-year forecast. Power BI anomaly detection has flagged that anomalies increased noticeably after the year just 200. Visible here as highlighted points that fall outside the expected range. The underlying techniques here are detecting unexpected values automatically rather than you having to eyeball every data point, adding error bars and confidence intervals. So you understand the uncertainty around the forecast and combining multiple visual elements and formatting choices together to make the insights. In this case, a real shift in the data after 2000 immediately visible rather than buried in a table. Now, a little bit about quick tips for passing your exam. My tips are using the free official Microsoft Learning Pad for PL-300. It really maps directly to the exam objectives. Getting hands-on in Power BI Desktop. The exam tests practical knowledge, not just theory. Taking the official practice assessment Microsoft provides for free. Reviewing every wrong answer. Watching for best answer questions where multiple options work but one is most efficient. These were my study strategies. My exam day tips are reading questions carefully for keywords like least administrative effort, minimize cost or real time, flag and skip tough questions, man circle back rather than burning time. For role level security and tax questions, eliminate clearly wrong options first. Sorry. Before we close, I want to touch on one more topic that sits under the fourth part of PL-300 exam, so-called Manage and Secure Power BI part of the exam, Role-Level Security or RLS. Role-Level Security lets you control what data different users can see within the same report, rather than building separate reports per region or per team. You define roles and rules once, and Power BI automatically filters the data based on who's viewing it. This matters both for the exam and for real deployments because it's how you scale a single report across an entire organization securely without duplicating work or risking that someone sees data they shouldn't. Now it's demo time. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and now I'm going to open my Power BI file, Power BI desktop file, and also I will be opening my just Power BI service, and I will give the necessary say explanation. So let me go to my tool, presentation tool, and share my screen. So let me also minimize this one. Okay. Okay. Now the screen you see just is my Power BI service, right? So here, let's pay attention to this part. So first of all, we should know that whatever we are preparing in Power BI desktop, we are going to share this report with our team members that are sitting under the same tenant. Here, in other words, we can say that the users that are using the email addresses with the same domain, so it means that they are under one, say, tenant. So in my cases, let's pay attention here. I'm using info@excelworld.org email address. So for demo purposes, I will be using both info@excelworld.org and zarbali@excelworld.org email addresses, just to demonstrate how row-level security works, right? And also, actually, this is something related to our upcoming session. But anyway, I'm giving some clarification here. So on workspaces, I'm going to create one new workspace, and I'm going to call it RLS. For description, I'm going to write row level security, right? And here, I'm going to select Fabric Trial. Actually, Microsoft for Fabric ecosystem gives you 60-day full access just using Microsoft Fabric. And then I say apply, right? So this is my workspace that I created right now, where I'm going to share my Power BI desktop file. And now I'm opening my Power BI desktop file. Here, I have used the same dataset that can be found in Excel format, right? And here you also can find some, reports just using some um, visuals like waterfall, ribbon, stacked column, funnel, scatter, forecasting, so on and so forth. Here, if you pay attention, we have stores in different cities of United Kingdom, including Birmingham, Leeds, Liverpool, London, and Manchester. So Birmingham, for example, Leeds are the cities, right? Store 7, store 8, 9, so on and so forth are store IDs. And also I have my store names, right? So if I go to my the stores table, here I can see my store IDs, store names, and also city names, right? So now it's clear. So what I'm just going to do, I would like to apply row-level security, and I would like to make data, for example, for the first four seats stores, including Birmingham, Leeds, Liverpool, three, let's say three, for info@excelworld.org email address. This is belonging to one user. And for London and Manchester City's stores, data are going to belonging to the other email address, zarbali@excelworld.org. So it means that I'm going to apply row level security. And there are two methods while we are talking about row level security. First one is just static method, and the second one is dynamic method. So first I'm going to apply the static method. So let's first of all come here and say one page, and I'm going to just write here RLS, right? And let's say that let's add one table. This is my table, right? And here I'm going to add my cities, right? And then let's say my store ID. And from key measures, I have written my total sales F measure, and I'm going to add this one here, right? Actually, what I can do, for example, let me bring it here, and I can increase the size of values. So let it be 12, and column headers also 12, and let's make it bold, right? And that's it. Totals are okay. And I'm just going to copy and paste this one. And here I'm going to remove these store IDs, okay? And I'm going to convert it cluster column chart, right? So let's make some clearance here, like removing titles and also from y-axis, okay? And then let's add these total labels, right? So which is okay. And say, last but not least, I'm going to also add, for better visibility, shadow effect. So it's going to be shadow in this color. So let's use format painter and apply it also here. Right. So when I watch this page, everything is visible here. I mean, sales for all seats, right? So what I'm just going to do, first of all, I'm going to use static method. Static method means you do row level security manually. So now we'll understand it. Let's go to modeling, and from manage rows, I'm going to add new row. And I'm saying that, for example, let's say Birmingham manager. And from these stores, I'm going to add this one and say my city equals to just Birmingham, right? Okay. Then I'm going to add new one, and I'm going to call it Leeds. And these stores new. Here I say city equals to Leeds, right? New. This time I'm going to call it Liverpool manager. Actually, here also we can say Leeds manager. And let's select this one. Okay. And say new. And city equals to Liverpool. Okay. And one more. London manager. These stores new. City equals to London. And last but not least, Manchester manager. Manchester. Manager, D stores new. City equals to Manchester, right? And say save. So here I have my all, say roles, right? Now I can close it. I can test it here. For example, say view as, for example, if I say other users, let's say London manager and say okay, and I see only London, stores say sales. Okay, but once again, the purpose of Power BI is to share your reports with others. I mean, um, collaboratively, you are working on the same report collaboratively with others. So now what I'm just going to do, so I'm going to just, open it here and say none and say okay. And say okay, I mean, save once again. Now from home, I'm going to publish my report into my, this workspace. If you remember, I created it a little bit earlier, this workspace, and say select. Now this report is publishing into my Power BI service in the workspace that I created on my Power BI, service. So I say got it. So let me bring it here. Okay. Now I'm here. Just I'm going to refresh it. And I see my report here, right? So here I have, in this workspace, I have my row level security study uh, report that I prepared earlier, right? And also, if I go back to my workspace here, I have my, row level security semantic model. So I'm selecting this one. It means that I'm clicking on this one, right? And say security. And here, for each, say, manager, for example, for London manager, I'm adding my email address. For example, it's going to be Zarbali, excelworld.org. You see, say add. For example, let's add also for Manchester, say, for Manchester manager, let's add Zarbaliyev, right? Zarbaliyev, and say add, save. Okay. Just pay attention here. As you remember, um, I have used, my info at excelworld.org email address just to enter my Power BI service. So to make this report available for other users that with whom I'm going to share, first of all, I have to open this workspace and I have to manage access. For example, here I'm saying that this workspace is also available for Zarbali at excelworld.org, right? And we have to pay attention to this part. When we are talking about role level security, we have to know that when we giving access to other people, it must be in the level of viewer, right? And say add. Okay. Now I'm going to, just close this one. I'm going to sign out, right? I'm going to sign out. And let me type here at .powerbi.org. And this time I'm going to use Zarbali at excelworld.org email address just to enter. Okay. I hope, say, it will enter now. I have changed my, password. So say update. And under workspaces, I have this workspace, right? You see, this is the report. If you remember, we have given access for Zarbali at excelworld.org for London and Manchester cities. Yes, you see, stores. So this is what Zarbali at say excelworld.org user sees when he or she enters into this workspace, right? That's okay. Now we have completed this, static method of row level security. Let me go back to our Power BI desktop file. What I'm just going to do now, I'm going to delete these roles that I created. So here I say delete, delete, and one more delete, right? Okay. And say save. Okay. Close. Now I'm going to add one more page, which I'm going to call username, right? Okay. So there are two functions like username and use principal name in docs that gives us the username of user of specific computer. So username gives us the name of computer that one uses. Use principal name actually gives us the email address. Actually, these are the same. So under key measures, I'm going to add one new measure. So I'm going to call it username equals. Here I'm going to use username functions and enter, right? So here I'm going to add cart visual, restore default visuals, okay? And let me bring this one here. And let's drop. So this is the name of my computer that I'm using, right? So this one. So this is my name, right? That I'm using, okay? So let's uh, give a shadow here. I love shadows, by the way. It's good. Now I say, sorry, I say save, and I'm going to publish, right? This report again to RLS. But we have to be, careful. Here I'm using info Excel world address, right? So it means that here also I have to, change it, sign out first of all. And once again, I have to enter again into my Power BI service using the correct email address. Say OK. Now it's OK. Let me go back here, say publish, and I'm going to select this one, select, replace, and let's wait for a while. It's publishing to Power BI service. Okay, got it. So let's go back to our Power BI service. Here from workspaces, let's open it and refresh. Let's open this report. Just pay attention. Here we have username, page. And, if you as you remember, let me show you here. In Power BI Desktop, username shows me the name of my computer. But here it shows me the name of email address, right? So now it means that when I enter into my Power BI service, my email address is automatically identified. So it helps me to apply dynamic row level security in my Power BI desktop file. So for this purpose, I'm coming to my Power BI desktop file. So here in this stores table, I'm going to add dynamic manager column. So say dynamic manager, now we'll understand it. I say that if, say, the store city name in between, here, say London, okay, and Manchester, then it's going to be, say, Zarbaliyev at excelworld.org, right? Otherwise, in other cities, for example, in Liverpool, in Leeds, and in Birmingham, it's going to be just info excelworld.org, right? And closing parentheses. So, okay. Now here I see two, just email address. These are my users, right? So actually we can, make it small. Okay. Actually, we can prepare an Excel list and we can integrate it into our models, but I don't need it for now. So what I'm just going to do, let's save it and let's go to modeling. And from manage roles, this time I'm going to add one new dynamic manager. And for the stores new, I say cities, or actually my dynamic manager equals to user name. So I can type like this, or I can switch to text editor. Just pay attention. Here, what I can do, I can remove this one, right? And I can say save. Okay, and close. That's it. So once again, I save my file and I'm going to publish this file to this RLS workspace. I'm going to replace it and wait for a while, right? And then I say, got it. Let's go to our, here. Let's refresh. Okay, and yes, now I'm going to my RLS workspace, and from here, for semantic model, I'm clicking on ellipsis, and I say security, and here I have my dynamic manager. So for dynamic manager, I'm going to enter my email addresses. For example, Zarbaliyev, Excel World, right, and info at excelworld.org and say okay and save. So here, for example, I can test as a role, right? So if you pay attention, here we are using, I'm here in this Power BI service using my info at excelworld.org. But we have to also keep it in mind that I'm the owner of this workspace. It means that I have all the opportunity just to see, say all the values. But anyway, for info, we are allowed to use Birmingham, Leeds, and Liverpool. Like now, being as dynamic manager, right? So this is what we can apply dynamic manager. Dynamic method of role level security. So let's go back to our PowerPoint slide. Actually, that brings us to the end of PL-300 session. Today we explored where PL-300 fits within the Power BI and Fabric certification path, then focused on visualizing and analyzing data, covering report design, the right choice of visuals, interactivity features like bookmarks, drill through, and tooltips, along with techniques for surfacing insights effectively. We also connected these concepts with a practical role-level security demo, showing how to control data access dynamically within a report and also statically. My recommendation is to keep practicing in Power BI Desktop, since hands-on experience is the most effective way to prepare for both the exam and the real-world projects. Thank you for joining today's session. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I'm going to take 1 or 2 minutes of you, and it means that I'm going to share all the links on YouTube chat box. So thank you very much, and I hope I will be able to see you in next time. By the way, you can use my um, YouTube, Udemy course, right? Udemy course. I'm going to share my link and coupon. It will help you, and it's free of charge, right? So let me copy and paste. And there are also other questions. As I'm alone, I will answer all the comments and all the questions. So, by the way, there is one newsletter that I have written about this. I'm going to share the link also here. You can just, read all of them. So, let me find also the Microsoft links. Just it will take only 1 minute, right? Not more, or 2 minutes. So yes. Okay, so let me find. I'm sorry. Okay, so first of all, you can use AKA MS, AKA MS database. So you can use this link. Then regarding PL-300, let me find one exam. Okay. Let's copy this one. And okay. And then let me find the other one, and I will end today's session. Okay, actually, you can type aka.ms/PL300, and it will take you to the to all the necessary, links that is all about PL-300. Okay, I hope I have just shared all the links in my YouTube chat box. So here I say good evening, something like that. Did it chance think once the module was uploaded from user to user principal? Yeah, that was the question. No, or you can use both username and use principal, user principal. Okay, that's it. So now I'm saying you thank you.